Hello there. Welcome to the 2026 Fantasy Football Championship press conference. We welcome today our two teams going to the championship. We have Run the Jewels, and then we have Epstein's Flight Log. These two have really stood out. Run the Jewels started off the draft with the number one pick, and Epstein's Flight Log started off with the number six pick in the draft. Both have really came through. Run the Jewels started looking pretty poor at the beginning of the season, came away now in the championship run. Epstein's Flight Log has been in there in the hunt since the beginning of the season. Let's congratulate both the two coaches. Mascot.
This is my mascot. This is Run the Jewels mascot.
Come on, Jules, let's go.
So Commissioner, first question for you is what was probably the biggest highlights going in from this last season?
Seeing some of the top teams from last year fall down to the bottom was kind of a huge upset because especially they were projected to go so high at the beginning of the year and then fell off towards the end, but still were competitive throughout each match.
Which teams would you be talking about? From when we're looking at the top projections at the start of the draft, what was the number one team and who was the bottom team and how do they kind of fall for the rest of the season?
OJ was projected to go undefeated this season with the highest scores. And then Steeler of Virginity and who was the other team? Let me check my notes. Coming for You were projected to be in the bottom two, 11 and 12. One was Steeler of Virginia was projected to go 1 and 14, and Coming for You was projected to go 0 and 15.
And they both gone and made at least the consolation playoffs.
They have, correct.
Uh,
They're fighting for fifth place this week.
We've had a bit of a debate when it comes to what would happen to the bottom place, the final team. At the beginning of the season, it was looking to be a haircut bet of like a really bad haircut. What's going on now with the number 12 team in the league? What is going to be their punishment this season?
It's kind of a toss up right now because unfortunately, some of our managers and coaches, being a fantasy coach, does not pay well, so they have to have other jobs. So they have to support their life, and some of those jobs require haircut regulations. So we have to determine
So
amongst the coaches.
what is going to be maybe a in lieu punishment for this number 12 team?
There's always the classic of sitting in an IHOP or a Denny's for 24 hours.
But nothing has been confirmed at this time.
Nothing has been confirmed. We'll have to have a meeting of the coaches for this one.
What were the biggest lessons learned from the running this last season from the commissioner standpoint?
Some of the biggest changes this season have been adapting some of the rules in the scoring systems.
What was the biggest learn from this? What was the biggest learnings from this last season?
Biggest learnings was adjusting some of the point scoring into this season. I personally have made too much of an adjustment, overcorrection, I should say. Going into this season, I will be adjusting it forthwith. Making one of the biggest things for running backs, they got 3 points for 40-plus yard runs and 6 points for 40-plus yard touchdown passes. I did not know the points stacked along with their actual touchdown points as well. So I'll be adjusting said points to a 40-yard run will be 1 point, and the 40-yard touchdown will be 3 points. That's my proposed. I will put it amongst the coaches as well to see how that goes forward. And then for passing as well, 40-plus yard passes will also be 1 point, and then touchdowns will be 3 points as well.
Will you be using the same draft order process, or are there going to be any changes coming up next season?
The draft order process is completely animated through the system and the AI that's running it. It puts whatever teams from last year in the proper order that's going in for this year.
Going forward on the Madcast, will the commissioner have their own segment where they be releasing power rankings off of their own personal, non-biased picks?
Potentially, that would be something I'd like to put up with the coaches. I'd like to put up with the coaches. Can you quit messing around back there? All right. That would be something I'd like to put up with the coaches and see how they'd feel about that, and if that's something we could push out for the rest of the league.
What's your messages to managers who keep accusing you of collusion?
Does not happen. Never once have I let my own personal biases impede my abilities as a commissioner.
What's being done to prevent auto drafts from ruining team balances?
I'm trying to get together a actual draft party with all the managers, or at least the ones that are capable of being here. Again, coaches and managers aren't paid well, so they have to have other jobs and other commitments.
Any thoughts on making the draft a live event or theme party?
That is the plan, to having a draft party, having people around, drinking beers, having some food. We don't condone underage drinking.
Commissioner, thank you for your time. I'd just like to ask, how would you evaluate the competitive balance of this league in this season?
This league season went very well. It was really only the top 3 that stayed pretty consistent within their spots, but from 4 through 9 or 10 throughout the majority of the season was kind of flippy-floppy, and it was really like a 2-week one team could go from number 10 to number 5 in a matter of 2 games. So, I believe the competitiveness was really well done this season.
Commissioner, it's been speculated on the Madcast podcast that maybe one of the teams won't be returning to this next season. Is there any idea of who would be replacing that team, or is there any speculation of them staying on to next season?
They are not gonna be here this season for just causes. We have narrowed down our search to replace them to a couple of potential coaches taking over that team. We still need to communicate, give them an offer, a bid to join our league this upcoming season.
All right, and Coach, I just have a few more questions for you,
Coach.
or Commissioner. My apologies. Sorry, my application's lagging here.
Commissioner, is there any predictions from you on when Steal Her Virginity will make it into the final championship game? Since the commissioner also happens to be a coach.
Coach.
We Steeler Virginity plans on always fighting for a championship every season, just like every other coach does, and that is the movement going forward.
Is there any opportunity or expectations of maybe cutting Coach Steal Her Virginity for lackluster performances these last 3 seasons and maybe replacing him with a different coach?
Steeler Virginity, remind you, went 11-0 at the beginning of the season and only lost 2 games last year.
What happened and what was their first loss? When was their first loss?
The Ravens played the Steelers.
That's not my
Jackson,
question. When was the Steal Her Virginity's first loss last season?
At the end of the season, or just before playoffs, and then their second loss was in the playoffs.
So they haven't been to a playoff game and won it since the inception of the league.
They haven't won a single playoff game.
Interesting. Is there anything that Steal Her Virginity's coach is looking to do going forward to maybe minimize that mistake?
Be better.
What's being done to prevent... No, never mind. I already asked that question. Can you confirm the draft date, and will there be any surprises this next season?
The draft date I plan on having just before preseason games pick up, and then having also a draft party as well.
When will punishments be dealt out for losing teams, and when will the trophy be presented to winning teams?
Before the draft of next season.
Thank you, Commissioner. That's all the questions we have at this time.
Okay. I'd like to ask Run the Jewels to come up and answer some questions.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm so glad he stuck around and shook my hand. First thing I like to say is thank God for giving me this opportunity and this platform, and I'll be glad to take any questions at this time. I think we weren't really expected to be in this position, especially being at the bottom of the league. At a certain point, we were ranked number 11th, and to come back and be in this championship season, this championship game, especially this is our second one in the last 3 years. I can be nothing more than blessed and just appreciate this opportunity that was given to me by God, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. So I'll take any questions at this time.
Who's been your most standout player this year?
That's a great question. If we're talking about players I drafted, my first pick was Jamar Chase, and I think maybe one of the unsung heroes on my team is either Trey McBride or Brandon Aubrey, both outstanding players in their own right. We made a trade about mid-season for Christian McCaffrey. We picked up Jackson Dart, and we were able to leverage him with a coach who had a very soft spot for him, and we were able to get Christian McCaffrey off of him. We got AJ Brown out pretty early because I just felt like he wasn't really going to do anything for us this year. And using him and Jackson Dart to get CMC was a huge addition for us to make a better push to this playoffs.
Which player has the safest floor this week?
God, that's such a great question. Devontae Adams, he's been fighting this hamstring injury. There's a good chance of him coming back. He's been an absolute touchdown machine. I'm trying to show off the haters that he's not washed. Getting out there and score. I know that Joe Burrow was injured and he was cut by some other team in the league. I don't know. They're not in this position to talk about it, so I don't need to worry about who it was that dropped him. But I was able to pick him up and just put him on my IR bench because I knew he was going to come back later on this year. And he's only had like really bad one bad game this season. So I was really glad to be able to pick him up with Jamar Chase, like the LSU boys. So I expect Joe Burrow to go out there and have himself a day. I'm hoping that Devontae Adams can come back and play and have himself a day. And Trey McBride had himself kind of an off day this last season. And going into the championship season, I need him to kind of pick it up.
Do you only pick teams from whatever colleges they came from? You mentioned the LSU boys.
No, I don't know where Trey McBride went to the school personally.
So you don't do sufficient research into your players?
That's definitely not true. Trey McBride, unfortunately, is just he's the number one tight end in the league this year. I just happen to just not know where he went to college, but that's not what I only do when I look into drafting players is where they went to college. That's just a ridiculous statement.
Thank you, Coach.
Yeah, come up with better questions next time.
Come up with better answers.
Ooh, that was pretty good. I think that's
Coach, this is asking into the finals for next week. It's going to be Run the Jewels against the Epstein Flight Log.
Yeah,
I just had a few questions that I'd like to ask.
Yeah, honestly, first thing I want to say is I respect Epstein's Flight Log a ton. Genuinely, I respect the Coach Ryan. We have a pretty good relationship outside of fantasy. And where he came from last season to this season, I think it's just a huge testament to his grit. And, this is, last season, I think people were saying that was his ceiling, and I knew that it wasn't his ceiling. That was his first season. Everyone's first season is pretty tough. From a guy that doesn't come in like necessarily is like the biggest watcher of football. So I honestly am in the biggest respect of him being in this game with me. I It's probably one of the people I did not want to play in this game because I just know that he's going to be tough playing. I don't know how we did in the regular season. I think we went maybe 1-1, or maybe he beat me both times. I know he beat me for sure once. But he's got a hell of a team with him, so he's going to bring it all the way.
And I'm glad that you brought up that point about the ceiling. So my question is that Joe Burrow, your quarterback, has the ceiling, but Jalen Hurts has the floor in terms of consistency. Are you worried about consistency with your quarterback stacked up against your opposing team?
That is a really great question. I think when we're talking about players, not even just the season, but just when we're talking about overall with their maybe legacy, maybe it's too hard of a word to use. I would 100% draft Joe Burrow 10 times out of 10 over Jalen Hurts.
Thank you. Another question I had about one of your players, your tight end, McBride.
Yeah.
He's been a difference maker all season. Do you see the tight end as your biggest edge in this matchup?
Yeah, I would honestly say that he is. I mean, Trey McBride's the number one tight end in the league this year. There's just no doubt. He probably even going into last year, he's the number one. It sucks that he's on the Cardinals, just an absolute booty ass team. But after they got rid of, I don't want to say got rid of, but once they put in Jacoby Brissett, I think Jacoby Brissett is just so much more of a baller, and he just knows that I got to get the ball to this guy. He's so good. When it comes to either like run after the catch, getting it into the end zone. Trey McBride is just the whole package when you're looking at tight ends. And I was so glad to pick him up. I think I picked him up maybe like my third pick. And when you're the first pick, when it comes to your like second and third picks, you just feel like you're at such the bottom because you picked once. You got to wait through the entire roster, and then you got to wait really again you go from one to last. So you got to wait for that. And I think my second pick was, I don't think it was Devontae Adams. I think it was AJ Brown. And then I think my third pick. So after this, and he just happened to be there. And I remember it was between him and maybe Jonathan Taylor. And I picked him, and I was like, did I make a bad decision? But I think overall, when we're looking at the season, Trey McBride has just been there for me week in and week out.
What happened to AJ Brown on your team?
So yeah, I did pick him up pretty early. I was pretty surprised to see him going into my second, and he wasn't a player I was looking to draft. But when the draft order came up, I saw he was the number one pick still out there. So I thought, we'll go with him. If he pans out and he does great, I have a great wide receiver number 2 behind Jamar Chase. If not, I have great leverage to trade him away. And that's what we ended up doing. We traded him away. We got James Conner. And then that didn't work out. So then when we picked up Jackson Dart off of the waiver wire, and he went off and scored like, I believe 40 points in his first game, we were able to leverage Jackson Dart to a team where their head coach is a huge Giants fan, and we were able to get Jackson Dart trade for CMC, which I think most people would not do. So for me, it was a big leverage with using AJ Brown and him being a bust with James Conner, because James Conner went out for the rest of the season, and having that good relationship with that coach to get Jackson Dart and trade him away to get CMC, because he wanted to give me a different running back, but I was able to lock him into it. And that's what really turned the season around, is getting CMC on the team.
If this game turns into a shootout, what player on your team is going to set the difference for you?
That's a great question. The biggest worry is Devontae Adams going to play? If Devontae Adams doesn't play, I'm going to need people like Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, CMC to step up. Trey McBride, that's another name that comes to my mind. Brandon Aubrey is our kicker, and that guy, if we can get him for 50 plus out, he's been pretty good all year. I know he had one bad game, but I honestly think he can kind of put those aside and go in, especially towards the end of this year where the Bengals know that they're eliminated. They don't really need to play to win because they know they're not getting into the playoffs, but they're just still playing to show that they got it.
Do you think it's smarter for you to bench a star who's been all over the place for a player who is more stable in this championship game?
For my team, I think the stable players are stars. So Devontae Adams, Jamar Chase, CMC, Trey McBride. Those are stars. My number 2 running backs, I've been all over the place. I've been from Woody Marks on the Texans to my current one, who is Blake Corums with the Rams. And he has been pretty solid these last couple weeks, but I wouldn't say he's a star in the overall NFL sphere.
You've been to the championship before. What is the biggest mistake that most people take when it comes to this week?
Maybe overthinking, which is what I'm doing, is overthinking. Especially I've been here before. It's really weird. I've had 2 thoughts of this last week. I'm so glad and I'm so grateful to be here. I honestly thought that I was getting close to being that number 12 seed at certain points of the season of like, I'm going to have that ridiculous haircut, especially having the Matt Cass, being maybe not a co-owner of the fantasy, but, being one of the founding members. I would never not pony up to the bet. So I thought I was going to be that 12 seeds. So just being in the championship game right now, I couldn't be happier, and I could not be happy to be playing versus a team like Epstein's Fight Log, who, we talked about how they were last season, how I was last season, and just the amount of respect I have for that coach, and playing with him it's just going to be a lot of fun. I know it's not going to be a low scoring game. It's going to be both teams are scoring over 130, and who can just finish out over 136 versus 142.
That's all my questions, Coach.
That's all my questions as well. Thank you, Coach.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. I'd tell everybody have a good and safe holiday season. Merry Christmas. And I can't wait for this championship game. So just real quick, I want to talk about my starting lineup that I'm looking to go into depending on injuries. Right now we're just, projected to win. That's not always a guarantee, especially in this league. But my starting lineup potentially going into this is Joe Burrow's going to be my quarterback. Jamar Chase is going to be my wide receiver 1. Mike Evans is going to be my wide receiver 2, who I also picked up for him being injured. The coach got rid of him. Don't know what his thought process there was, but I was glad to pick him up, put him on my IR bench, and able to utilize him in this later half of the season. Christian McCaffrey, who we traded for. Blake Corum is going to be my my running back 2. Trey McBride, my tight end. My flex position is going to be Devontae Adams, who is questionable. There's a chance I might switch him out with either Alec Pierce or Christian Watson, depending on how I feel going into later on. That will probably be a Thursday or Friday decision for me. Kicker is going to be Brandon Aubrey, and then my defense, it's going to be the Denver Broncos. Especially with them looking at their opponent's going to be a third string quarterback. I can't imagine them not getting back there and getting some good points. So, win, lose, or draw, honestly, I'm just glad to be here. I just like to thank God for this opportunity. Thank you.
Next up, we have Epstein's Flight Log.
under him.
Okay.
All right. Make sure I look good for the camera here. All right.
Coach, welcome to the press conference. From going from last place last year to the number one seed going into the championship, what did you do differently this offseason?
Well, if I'm going to be honest, I took a lot of advice. I think that a person is only as strong as the people that surround him. And last season, I kind of went on my own whim. It was mostly, if we're being honest, auto draft. But this season, I decided to take it a little more seriously. I took advice from my friends, and that helped me uh, get to where I am at now. I cycled out a few players that weren't really fitting the bill, weren't getting me the numbers that I needed, and fit my team better. And so that ended up getting me to where I think we are at now. And so, yeah, I would like to give a lot of thanks to the people that got me here.
Looking back into last season, you weren't exactly the biggest football fan in the world. How much football have you adjusted watching to this year than you did last year?
120%. A lot of that has to do with giving time to actually sitting down and watching the games, paying attention not just to the numbers but to the players, um, and sitting and understanding the game from more than just a points perspective, but like the players themselves. And so I would say that it's doubled, if not tripled, possibly even quadrupled since last season.
Are the rumors true that last year you didn't look at your fantasy lineup going into each week?
Uh, I will neither confirm nor deny that. I will say last season was not to standard. There were definitely some slip ups in there, but I think the team has since improved. And we've really hit hard on checking in on a week to week basis, making sure that we're hitting those fundamentals, making sure we're subbing out players that are on IR, subbing players that are even out for the entire season. There was Connor McCaffrey last season. Um, McCaffrey, I had on my roster and he was out, and I didn't even care to look at it. And so many points were lost simply due to negligence. And this season, it's something that we've taken seriously.
If you had to pick one player on your team, who would you trust in this championship?
110% Puka Nakua. I started out at the beginning of the season. We had a couple rough games, not quite hitting the numbers that were projected, but I stood firm on my decision that he was my best wide receiver. And especially last week, I was proven right. Nakua is an amazing wide receiver, and I stand by him.
What was your lowest point this season, and how did you bounce back?
I'd have to say my lowest point was with my quarterback, Jalen Hurts. We had one game. I want to say it was against the Chargers. Correct me if I'm wrong. Where there was a triple fumble, like a pass that was fumbled and then recovered and then fumbled again and then given back to the opposing team. That was pretty rough. That made a couple clips on the NFL. Was not very proud of that, but I stand by Jalen Hurts. He's a solid point hitter in terms of a quarterback.
Is there one player on your opponent's team you're most worried about?
Definitely, I would have to say Joe Burrow. My biggest concern going into this next week is quarterback versus quarterback, considering quarterbacks kind of shape teams and teams shape points. Joe Burrow, great quarterback. The Bills have been doing great this season. And yeah, if I had to pick one specifically, it would be Joe Burrow for the Bengals, not the Bills. My apologies.
With all this talk of Jalen Hurts, is Jalen Hurts your biggest risk of a bust this week?
Uh, I'll say there's more that goes into a bus than just a quarterback because a lot of the players bring to the table their own points. However, I will say that a quarterback can influence a team. It's very important that kind of the head of the team leads the team together. And on my league, we have a couple um, individuals from the Eagles, Dallas Goddard, Vontae Smith, and a few others. But it's definitely concerning point, but I have faith in my players, and I think that even if one leg breaks on the centipede, we'll still carry ourselves over the finish line and do well.
Have you engaged in any trash talk this week, or are you staying quiet?
I prefer to stay quiet. I'm very humble. I think trash talk is only good when it's kind of in between friends. It's a little funny. But at the end of the day, I have no leg to stand on. I was dead last season, and I've been doing better this season, but I'm not the best. Not yet.
So it's reported that you beat Run the Jewels in week 3, but in week 14, he ended up winning over you guys 140 to 125. What adjustments have you guys made going into this week to try to, because right now we're tied going into the championship weekend. What are you guys looking to do and to one up Run the Jewels to win over the split that you guys have this season?
Gotcha. Yeah, definitely. In that week, there were a few players that were not moved adequately into their positions. A few that needed to be moved back into IR. A few that needed to be dropped. A few that need to be subbed out. Since then, those corrections have been made, and yeah, just moving players into the correct positions, making sure that they're not taking up valuable point space.
In that week 14 matchup that you guys had, Jalen Hurts scored 0.4 points. He didn't even score a full 1 point. Is there any worry about fully starting him this week, or are you looking to ride him as your quarterback?
I'm looking to ride him as my quarterback. I think that week was a fluke. I think that he's a solid floor quarterback. He consistently provides, and when he does lack, there have been instances where he has. I think that he can perform. He's taken the Eagles to the Super Bowl multiple times, so I don't worry about him underperforming.
How do you deal with the stress of a close championship game?
Alcohol. Next question.
What's your preferred drink of choice?
Busch Light.
The only good choice.
Thank you.
How early did you start preparing for this championship matchup?
I really only started honing in on the championship matchup once I saw the points that I was getting and my position in the league. Once I saw that I was above the top 5, I believe I noticed I was 4th in the league. That's when I noticed this is a lot different from last year, and I need to start taking it seriously, especially after the performance of my team last week with Puka Nacua just showing out with the fantastic finishing touchdown pass for the. Forgive me 1 second. DJ Moore catching the final touchdown pass in overtime with the Green Bay Packers against the Bears. That showed me a level of performance on the individual player. And that's what got me to start really understanding that this is shaping up to be, in these past 3 weeks especially, we're shaping up to be something great.
Coach, great eye contact. What player did you draft that really felt like a difference maker to you during this offseason?
Nacua.
Did you learn anything this season that you'll use differently going forward?
Yes. Going forward, I think a lot of it has to do with being attentive to the actual team itself and not being negligent. Tuning in, checking in on the games, even on days where I'm disposed because I do have other obligations, just constantly checking in on the phone, checking in on the score, checking in on the apps. It takes a lot to be a coach for a team, but as long as you're consistently checking in, I think that's okay.
At what point did the playoffs or at what point of the season did you feel confident on making it to the playoffs? And at what point of the playoffs did you feel confident on making it into the championship round?
Neither and neither. I was completely surprised and shocked by my position in the league now, and I still am. And regardless if we take number 1 or number 2, I am just glad that we had this opportunity here today. I'm very, very proud of my team.
With you being the first and only team so far to score over 200 points, does that give you greater confidence going into this championship weekend?
Yes and no. So it gives me greater confidence because I know that my team is capable of performing those numbers. The issue that I have with those numbers is giving my players, the individual ones, the opportunity to perform. I've said it time and time again. Nakua just needs to have the opportunity to spread his wings and perform as a wide receiver. He can't perform if we're running the tight end, running the ball. So, given my players, I know them individually. If they can run the ball or give them the opportunity to perform, I think that they will completely dominate the scoreboard. But only if they're given that chance.
Is your strategy the chased volume of points or matchup of the players against teams they're playing against?
Good question. I would definitely say volume of points. If you can maximize each player getting the best wide receiver, the best quarterback, the best tight end, the best kicker, as long as you can maximize and inflate those numbers stacked against an opposing team, they have less of a chance if they're consistently good, not consistently overperforming.
There's been allegedly a friendly bet between both coaches. Run the Jewels is willing to bet either a nice case of alcohol of the winner's choice or a nice bottle. Are you willing to accept this pony up the bet between the number one and the number two teams?
I'd be willing to accept, yeah, and I understand that there is a party coming up as well, and it would make for a nice kind of gift for the party for either team, you know. So
If you were to win, what would be your pack of alcohol of choice, and what number of beers or what bottle would you prefer?
man, are we talking within the realm of possibility here?
Whatever you want. Run the Jewels is willing to bet whatever. Either a nice bottle of whatever or a nice, 40 rack of whatever.
If there's a chance to get a 30 rack of Bush Apple ever again, it'd be Bush Apple. But if we had to go with just standard,
So let's just happen to say that Coach Run the Jewels does have a box of some apples.
Yeah.
You wanna put that on as your? That's another question.
I would absolutely, yes,
You mind if I come on camera with you?
absolutely, yes, please. Let's shake hands in front of the Bush.
Yeah.
Let's do one of these. Like, get a here. Frame it for the video, just right. So, like,
So for sure, if I lose, this whole pack is yours. I swear to God, you're willing to take this home. This is all yours.
that is a deal, and I'm willing to equate whatever you ask in return.
Commissioner, you are in the press box. Are you willing to confirm your witness?
I confirm that I witnessed.
Okay. This box of Bush Apple, it is fully unopened. It
It has been confirmed by
it
the
is
league.
on the line.
The seal has not been broken.
And
It is a
here's
full
joy.
30 rack.
Are you willing to have this at your house?
Yes.
So the box of Bush Apple will be sitting. So the coveted trophy of Apple will be on the line
Deal.
this season.
Is this between both coaches?
I was gonna say, yeah. If I lose, do you want?
So yeah, it would come back home with me, and then we'll figure something. We'll figure something out.
Okay, all right. Totally reasonable. Yes.
I have no more questions for you, Coach.
Thank you.
Coach, I also have no more questions to you. Just best of luck to you this week.
Absolutely. Best of luck to you as well. Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate it,
Coach,
Mhm.
hell of a season.
Thank you.
Let's get one more little thing
like
with
a photo. No, maybe like a thumbnail. You know, how sick would that be? Here, you quit. So
You guys put your
hands in front of the. Okay. Get that mic out of the way, maybe. And then hands underneath the bush apple, kind of shaking. You know what I mean? Yeah, as long as you promise to hold it. And
So with that being said, the last few matchups fighting for third, the loser gets fourth place. We have Patrick and Mahomes against Hail Mary. Currently, it is projected to be Hail Mary wins over Patrick and Mahomes. But that is still up to see and up to debate. Patrick Mahomes is one of the league leaders in points this season. So it's going to be a tight matchup for third place. Steeler of Virginity is going up against Coming for You. The last two teams that were projected to be bottom at the beginning of the season are fighting for fifth place and sixth place. With Steal Her Virginity going up against projected to lose to Coming for You. Fighting for 7th place is Diddy Draft Him and Auto Draft Dream Team. Both teams that were projected to be about 5th or 6th at the beginning of the season. Is currently projected to be Diddy Draft Him wins over Auto Draft Dream Team, but both teams have been fairly inconsistent this year. Rounding out the rest of the league, Two Girls, One Cup is going to be coming in at 9th. I'm a Kiss Your Kids Brady coming in at 10th. OJ Was Framed coming in at 11th. And G-Man's Team coming in at 12th. This season has been a lot of ups and downs and a huge roller coaster for every team. So again, I'd like to congratulate both the coaches for getting here. Both of them have had a long road to go. Again, I'd like to bring up both the coaches again to congratulate them on a hell of a season going to the championship. We have Epstein's Flight Log and Run the Jewels. Thank you guys for coming.